to your issue about the cedi, I think we would need to explain for people to really understand what and how capital price or the price of money is distorted by government.
Okay.
So you have a central bank, which is the Bank of Ghana, which is supposed to manage the price of money.
Okay.
And so they go and sit down, few economists, financial background, whatever, they sit down under the influence of government and set the price of money.
The price of money?
Yes. Which is your monetary rate.
Okay.
Or you would say your interest rate.
Okay.
Or the base rate.
Okay.
And that is where the distortion is. Now, for everybody, what you are able to save, if you prevent yourself from enjoying the gratifications of today, and therefore you have savings and you put down that savings therefore goes to become a loanable funds or become capital for someone else's business.
Okay.
And that person can borrow it and then take on production, which will then also be profitable, we assume, and then make more money, pay you back with an interest or with a compensation. So this is normally what should have happened.
Yes.
That if people should prevent consumption, savings goes up.
Okay.
And when savings goes up, there is more loanable funds.
Okay.
In these terms, we are talking about the cedi.
Okay.
So if I prevent myself from eating waakye every day, and I can save that money, put that money in a bank, it increases savings. And that savings, because of the fractional reserve banking we practice, where the bank is asked to set aside some of the deposits they take and invest those ones in liquid funds, in liquid investments. Therefore, you would have money to borrow on the capital market.
Okay.
Now, what it means is that savings should be equal to the loanable funds.
Okay. The amount of savings we have
should be equal to loanable funds.
So amount of money that anybody
is available
to be loaned,
exactly,
to be taken.
Exactly. But what happens in this case is that you have one player, which is government, in there, who, because he wants to, push up economic growth, will influence the central bank that is able to set the price to also print more money, for instance, or increase the supply of money.
Okay.
So what happens? The distortion is that Bank of Ghana put in more money or give government more money to undertake production. By this time, there will be more cedi in the system.
Okay.
And then the price will drop in terms of the monetary rate.
Okay.
It drops. The moment it drops, the reaction of people who would save would be like, okay, if I put my money in time savings, I'm not going to make much. So let me hold it. Let me do something else with it.
Okay.
And we will come back to that. What that person will do with the money is the issue of the dollar. But we'll come to that later. Now, the prices come down, and then we all feel, okay, businesses, you and I, we feel that, okay, interest rate is down and all that. Let's all go do some business. Then we all start doing some one or two businesses. You decide to open a shop in front of your house. This person tried to start selling something online and all that because it looks good. The cedi, it looks stronger. money is in the system. We give a false perception of what the capital money cost is, and then we all go out there trading and doing all sort of things. Then comes reality. That distortion is not able to finance fully the projects that it's supposed to fund. So they give these monies to government, and government had to deal with building hospitals and all that, so they employ workers and all that, and before you could say jack, the projects cannot be completed.
Because the money is there.
The money is there. But once people start trading with their monies and doing all sort of things, demand increase and prices will change. The moment prices changes, because once you push in more money to take on production, right, in terms of governments, individuals and all that, and mind you, once the interest rate is down, businessmen will want to hold on to their money and want to use the bank's money.
Yeah.
So demand goes high, and then price goes up. And government will also face the same challenge of buying from the same market, and therefore projects are not able to complete. Then reality checks comes in. Uncompleted projects, unemployment, and then government still says that, oh, monetary rate is at this level, don't move. But the man on the market knows that prices have changed, and therefore if I put my money in savings, I'm not going to get enough. Assuming milk is 1 cedi 15 pesos, and all of a sudden it's 1 cedi 20 pesos, and you ask me that put your money in here at the bank and I'll give you 0.5% per annum, it means that within a year, if I come back, I cannot buy milk. So I'll put my money in there. And once that distortion hits reality, the issues we will have in terms of the strength of your currency is what we are seeing today.
Okay.
Because the distortions that was created in the market is still ongoing, and that is what the cedi is facing. Now come to think of it, you have inflation at the rate of 15.6%, yet the price of money is 14.5%. What you are basically telling me is that what I stand to gain if I should put my money in savings, right, will not be enough to compensate me when the maturity of that savings occurs, and then I have to use that money to do something, because the prices, the rates at which prices are going up is a 15.6 or 7%.
Okay.
Now you are going to pay me only 14.5% a whole year. And this is measuring the strength of the cedi on its own.
Okay. Okay.
Without talking of the dollar.
Okay.
Now, mind you, if the government comes onto the local bond market to borrow, the government is borrowing from savings. If the government goes out there to borrow from the international money market, capital market, is borrowing from outside and bringing in what? Dollars.
Yeah.
And when they bring in those dollars, they tell you that, oh, the price of dollars is so low because we have more dollars, forgetting that these are loanable funds that will have to be returned at some point. And just like what I explained, reality check will hit in, and that is what has happened. So the measurement of the cedi to the dollar is different from the measurement of the cedi to its own strength in relation to inflation,
Okay.
or the CPIU. Now, when those loanable funds gets in, it gives us a false impression, a distortion of pricing, and says, oh, we have more dollars. If you could, just a week ago, Bank of Ghana says, I'm putting in $75 million into the market. And what happened? The dollar rates plummeted, came down to about 7.6. And it only lived for 4 days. For 4 days. And we are back to what? 8.2. Yes. And that tells you that when you distort the market, in the sense that the $75 million you claim to be bringing in, it's a drop in the ocean. If you are supposed to, on the auction market, if you are supposed to distribute this 75 million you are talking of to the commercial bank, yes, probably one person might get like 5 million and all that, 10 million and all that. But downstream, where the commercial bank has to meet the demand on it in relation to people who need these currencies to trade, probably one person might get only 20,000 when in fact they need about $1 million. So yes, you put the news out there, people get the feeling that prices of the dollar will plummet. So look, let's get in there and let's release our dollars at the value of today. You create a false impression. People sell their dollars, and then all of a sudden reality comes in, and then we realize that the 75 million could not do anything to the market. Quickly, the little I have, I will hold on to it. I will not use it. And when I don't use it, what happens? There is scarcity on the market. Once there is scarcity, price will change, or price will move upwards, and that is what we are seeing. So what we are seeing, it is not the doing of some external, so much of an external issue. It is also related, more so related to how we are managing the currency and pricing of capital.
Okay.
Has a big role to play in the distortion that is happening. Look, Fed in the US had to meet when all these things started happening. The war in Ukraine and all that. They have met more than 2-3 times. Do you know what our MPOC is doing?
No.
Nothing.
They are not taking any steps?
They did not. They did not find it prudent enough to shift their meeting dates forward enough to resolve some of these issues. I think I read on their this thing that they have moved it I think from 30th to 60th. It was not enough.
It should have been held urgently.
Urgently, because you need to actually do some correction of pricing. But we have left it as it is. That is why Bank of Ghana would come onto the bond market, the local bond market, seeking to raise a 5-year bond with a target of $1 billion, and could only manage 800.
Because people are not ready to put in their money.
People are not ready at that price, and even they got it for the upper price, and yet people are not ready to give. And you are not asking yourself any questions.
Because what you're just saying, Quite recently, I was having a conversation with Henry George Martin. Say, we were thinking about, okay, so if you're keeping money at the bank at this time, is it the most prudent thing to do?
No.
Because the value of that money seemed to have completely gone down.
Exactly.
So if you're holding, even maybe if you when you put in, it was 4,000 cedis at this time, that 4,000 cedis may have the value of like 3,000 cedis.
Exactly. And what I will gain,
will not make up for the 1,000 that
will not make up for that 1,000.
Are you saying they should have gone up with, because you talk about the base rate, the monetary rate, they should have raised it?
Yes, it should have been raised. Look, from 14.5 we should be at least 20.5.
That's significant.
Yes, if you want to correct pricing, this is what you are supposed to do. And look, people will always look for the alternatives, and there is always availability of alternative. And the alternative is that if my money will so deteriorate that quickly, then let me invest in a particular type of money that will protect my investment. So I buy dollars.
Because we're always thinking about that.
And then everybody will start to ration for the dollars, when in fact, probably, they don't need it.
Okay. So people are buying dollars that they do not need for.
Yes. That is why on the interbank exchange rate, it's so low, still talking about 7.6. And on the forex market,
it's more than that.
It is about 8.2.
Yeah.
Because people are in need of it.
Wow.
And this is all because of price distortion. If I have my money sitting in a bond, that is failing, because the bonds are also measured in terms of pricing with the interest rate or the monetary rate. So anybody holding a Ghanaian euro bond, most of the bonds that are dollar based that we issued, would want to liquidate it.
At this time is the best time to liquidate it.
Yes, because you don't know how far or how deep it will fall in terms of the bonds. And this is the sentiment of an investor. Look, I don't know how long this thing will be happening. I don't know how long the war, I don't know how long Ghana will take to clean up his mess in terms of debt and all that. So, let me hold my dollar, which is a comfortable investment to do at this point. And these investments were done in dollars.
Okay.
So it's easy to call my dollar back, liquidate it now, lose some few thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars, but at least keep the value of my money. Because if you want to liquidate, it will be discounted at the price of today.
Okay.
You will not get the face value,
okay,
because it has not reached maturity. And that is also killing our banks, because these banks went on to the primary market to buy the bonds.
Okay.
We cannot play there. Then at the secondary market, they come here and sell it to us. So if I say, look, I don't want it, you, the bank, has to pick it up. So your exposure in terms of default becomes riskier. And that is why you hear Moody and others downgrading some of our banks. It is not it is not biological science. These are very simple.
So where we are
issues,
as a result of conscious decisions that were made,
of course,
that have hit the cedi hard.
Of course.
And you can't see an attempt to correct.
No, I don't see any attempt. Do you see from the finance ministry to trade, to our treasurer, the Bank of Ghana, doing anything? No. They are not doing anything. You don't see any effort.
And because if what you are talking about, I'm wondering if they attempt that. Because one of the things they have trumpeted over the course of their 5 years in power has been interest rates are lower.
But it's a distortion. Is it a true reflection of price?
So there was a conscious decision made that led to that interest rate that they're talking about.
Look, go on to the 91-day treasury bills and all that. Because of the rates, the monetary rates they have set, they don't go beyond a certain percentage. If it is 14.5, they will not go beyond maybe 14.5 or 16 or 15 as the rate for your 91-day treasury bills or 182 bill.
Okay.
You understand? So government is saying that borrow me the money, but borrow me these monies very cheaply to advance the cost of production and growth. So they take this money, they put the money into certain ventures. Those ventures hit reality on the market, which says that prices are so high and the projects cannot be done, and therefore government projects are stalled, and then nothing happens. Unemployment goes up, and then we are back to zero. You see, when you fail to face reality, you will end up meeting reality on the market.
Okay.
And that is what is happening. You can set the rates low, but inflation will expose you. And that is bottom line.
So the biggest problem we have now, are you saying can be resolved through monetary measures from the Bank of Ghana and government?
We cannot resolve it entirely.
True that. But that's a step.
But that is a step to correct the market.
Okay.
To have some correction in the market. I mean, the damage has been caused. And this has been done for quite a long time.
Okay.
This has been done for, you know what? When contractors go onto the market, or government gives contract, and you need 100 blocks to build one home.
Okay.
And then that 100 blocks will cost you 100 cedis.
Okay.
So a contractor comes up to government and says, look, I can do it for 80 cedis. And then government says, PPA, you are good, you are a good contractor, we will give it to you. Or even the contractor says, I can do this job at 100 cedis. This is a very honest contractor. And then PPA says, no, go and do it with 80 cedis. And the contractor says, okay, I will do it, and takes it. Go on to the market.
Mm-hmm.
At the market, he realizes that even the price at 100 is not able to do the job. You know what the contractor will do? He will go in there and buy maybe 50 blocks, put up something, and tell you that where I've gotten to, I need more funds to work.
Okay.
And then the contractor will start telling you that, I need to revise the contract price. And then PPA comes back again and says, if you want to revise the contract price, then do 15%. Only 15%. When in fact, inflation would have been at 20%. So everything we do in terms of trying to achieve growth and all that is related to being very honest on the market. And those who call themselves economists actually having to do a good job by fixing price. Prices are supposed to be fixed on the market. Prices are supposed to be fixed on the market, and not a certain body sitting down fixing the price. So if you come to me and you want to borrow my money, I would say that I'm giving you the money at this rate. But because of the institutions of banking and all that, that job has been taken from us, and we have given it to a bank. So we just deposit our money in there, and the bank does the rest of the job. It doesn't mean that the demand and supply and also the price of money attribute has changed. It has not. It has not changed. And we keep lying to ourselves to the extent that today we don't even teach that in the classroom any longer.
That is not taught.
Oh yes, because they feel that there is some complexity that has come into the financial sector. You have all these operations, you have all these papers, and therefore people talk big English. Your big English will come back to the market.
But to you, simply an issue of the basics.
Of course.
Demand and supply.
Of course.
Wow. So what do we need to do to fix this problem? Because now you're looking at the cedi struggling against the dollar. You see interbank rates where they are writing. I recall the last time I was speaking to one of the guys where they work with those who do the gas suppliers. And we're talking. I said, currently I just Googled. Google was saying that the dollar and to the cedi was 6.7. He didn't hear me initially, so he said, "Oh yes." I said, "He asked, are you saying 6?" I said, "Yes." He said, "We are way past 6. We're not doing 7. I thought you were talking about 7.6. I didn't think so. He's doing 7.6, and the interbank rates are showing something else.
Yeah.
You're saying the only way to correct this is in the hands of the Bank of Ghana.
Oh, of course. Of course.
But would that kick in immediately? We still will see some.
Oh, we would. It will not be immediate. I mean, it did not take a stroke of a pen to get us here. It took time, for people to take all the wrong decisions for us to get here, and therefore it will take time. Certainly, it will take time to recover.
But when they were doing all this, what did you think they were seeking to achieve?
Well, that is the issue. I cannot know what they thought they were trying to achieve. Look, in the first few years of this administration, and sometimes that is what hurts, some of us started ringing the alarm bells, and we were called all sorts of names. It was because we knew this is where it will get to. Nobody should be deceived that, Ukraine, COVID, yes, it has added up to our issues. But certainly, the base is actually what we actually did, and not what somebody else have done. It was more about us. The decisions we took from day one wasn't right. But they were so adamant to the extent that it shows more like a disrespect to the rest of us Ghanaians, as if we were all idiots and these were the people who could think and we couldn't think. We couldn't think. You were taking on projects that cannot pay for itself. You were taking on projects with pricing that will not really achieve the purpose. From day one, we knew that this free SHS issue will have to be funded by government. How we are going to fund it was going to be an issue. If you fund it for a year or two, the numbers will grow.
Okay.
What are you going to do with that? You ignore all this. Planting for food, you push in so much. We knew providing fertilizers at a subsidy and seedlings alone will not get us to that point. So the returns will not come in, yet you are making an investment. Dams, you pump in money. We knew that when you are putting these dams will not get us the results. At the end of the day, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? That by some magical or spiritual means things will happen in your favor? No, that is not economics. And people should get down from their high horses. I think by now, in their own small corner, in their closet, they are down. But when they come to the public, they will behave as if they are still the guys who are in town.
Because right now, if any problem that arises, there are only one solution. Because everybody is telling them, okay, so now you seem to be getting a windfall in revenue from petrol, from the crude that you are importing out of the country.
Yeah.
Use that windfall to see if you can solve the current problem we have. And they say no, that but they have not passed e-levy. So that makes it difficult. They want more revenue. And I'm sure we've heard that argument.
Well, that is a childish argument to do, that because we have not passed e-levy. It is like holding us to ransom, that we won't do anything if you don't pass the e-levy.
That's what we see.
That's what they are doing.
Yeah.
Now, but the fact is, if there is a windfall in the oil sector, trust me, they cannot use it.
They cannot use that windfall.
Yes, they can't. And the reason is simple. Yes, you are having a windfall at one end, right? But there is also an upsurge at the other end in terms of your debt. So your foreign debts are equally going up.
How?
Because the value or the price of the dollars,
okay,
is moving up. You are suppressing it at the Bank of Ghana level or at the interbank level. But the reality is that if you don't get any foreign inflows to take care of your debts, then what you need to do is to also come to the market, just like me and you, and mop up some dollars. And when you get there, reality will tell you that the price is not 7.6,
okay,
but 8.2. So they will jealously hold that windfall because of debt. So debt has held that hostage as we speak.
So that is one.
Yes.
Is one reason they can't touch it.
One reason they cannot touch the windfall. It stands to reason that, look, if it is a same sector, and at one leg we are making more, at the other leg we are suffering, why not? It makes sense.
You balance
it up, and it gives us some reliefs. I think in terms of what is going on, our trade ministry, and excuse my language, has been the most useless ministry.
Our trade ministry has been the most useless ministry.
Yeah.
How?
Well, the challenges we are having with inflation is more to do with trade.
What could they have done?
Vessels are not able to come in because of the non-availability of vessels. Prices of basic commodities, we are not able to hold on prices. Now people are trading based on spot prices. So if you go to the market, you cannot negotiate price for the following week, and that is the international market. Wheat, you cannot go to the market the international market today and say that I want to buy wheat this volume for next week. No, they'll tell you come next week. You know, so all these things are happening on the international market. It is up to the trade ministry to sit down and find out ways and means they could give importers, especially those in the manufacturing or producing industry, some form of relief to be able to be a bit competitive. Price of flour risk jumping up over 25% in matters of weeks. By next week we should be seeing price of one bag of flour around 320, 330.
25%.
Yes.
Because already it's quite high. There's a substantial increase.
Yes, and it's going up again.
Because of the challenges on the international market.
Our trade ministry is the most useless ministry so far, next to the finance.
So finance is the most useless, trade follows.
Yeah, trade follows.
Because I think all this is all this is as a result of inaction.
Yes, inaction. They are not doing anything.
Nobody taking any step.
No, they are not looking at the factors of production to try and look. We have been in this situation before. 2007, 2008. Probably worse then, but action was taken.
But what can the trade ministry? Because immediately when you say there are no vessels available, is it that the vessels are expensive? What is it?
Because of the issues on the international market, there are no vessels available. Vessels are finding it difficult to move, and of course, if they will move to places where it makes more business sense than coming to the west coast here and all that. So it is difficult to actually charter a vessel down here and all that. And maybe how many imports are you going to do? It has to this vessel has to move to several places and then also pass through this place and all that. Look, as we speak today, Ghana Ports and Harbors is writing to people who bring in vessels, telling them that from henceforth we will not take cedis, we will take dollars.
GPHA at this time?
Yes. So you understand why I tell you the Ministry of Trade is the most useless.
What does that mean for the average businessman when you say the GPHA at this time is writing to them
asking for dollars? It says your port charges and Steve Dory and all those stuff. Now if you have to pay me in dollars.
So instead of reducing the pressure on the small dollar in the system, they are worsening the situation. Driving up the price of the dollar against the cedi.
Exactly. And they will tell you they have the backing of Bank of Ghana to do that.
That's an interesting move.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about Bank of Ghana trying to get the businessmen to go and get the dollars for them so that they can
Of course. That is why I'm telling you that the windfall in the oil industry, they cannot touch it.
But in doing all that, it means they are so there's a lot of convenience moves from the government. What about us?
Well, we are in the direct market. We will have to face it. We cannot do some of the things government can do or the institutions can do. We would face the brunt, and that's what we are facing.
So cost of flour will continue to go up.
Yes.
Cost of other goods will continue to go up. We won't see any action.
You know, look, with even fuel alone going up, I think in the index, I think fuel weight in terms of computing our inflation is about 43%. So it has a huge weight in there.
Okay.
So the price of fuel alone is going to escalate the inflation rate, which equally will affect food, which is also over 50% in terms of weight.
%43% for fuel. Food is 50%.
Over 50%, I think.
Because now you're talking about fuel influences food.
Yes.
The cost of food, of course, is usually influenced by fuel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then we can see the direction we are heading in.
Exactly.
Wow, it seems some way, but these are very serious issues that if you're not seeing government acting on, should we all be worried?
Yeah, we should be worried, very worried.
But what can we do?
Well, what can be done is just to be prudent and be smart enough, which we are failing to do. You cannot at this time, and it's a very unfortunate period we find ourselves. We cannot at this time also say that we don't need tax revenues. We need them.
Okay.
Right? At the same time, we have the issue with crunch.
Okay.
Money has become difficult.
Okay.
And then we have issues with supply chain.
Okay.
You know, so it's kind of all round, but you would have to take on one and compensate with that, and that is the same tax, because government's tool to control the market is tax and pricing.
Okay.
This is the time government needs to come in and say that I am dropping the VAT rate.
Okay. Reduce.
Yes. The 2.5 NHIL 2.5 GET fund should be allowed to be deductible.
Okay.
Maybe we can leave the COVID as a levy, 1%.
Okay. So go back to the regime that they inherited.
Exactly. Drop some few taxes and encourage volume and production in certain targeted areas of production, and let's move up production. That will bring in so much in terms of foreign revenues.
And that is where I was telling
And that
you.
is where they cannot touch.
That is the issue.
They don't have the, excuse me to say, the balls to do that.
Do you think they should? They should grow it.
No, they cannot do it because already they are out there looking for more tax revenue. Every day we wake up to e-levy.
Okay.
Right? So why would you say you are dropping corporate tax rates? You are dropping or changing how
The
you
VAT
are.
structure.
Yes, the VAT structure. Because effectively, it is not 18.5. It is 19.25%.
Okay.
You know, take something off. The levies is killing industry. Mind you, you have price increases in terms of raw materials. And then as part of cost, you have been given a cost of about 6% free to add to the cost before you even begin production.
Okay.
I'm not saying take it out completely, but change the structure. Allow the inputs in terms of the levies to be deductible for now.
Okay.
Give some relief to production. Bring back some enthusiasm and some belief in the market and some form of confidence. Push up inflation to reflect reality.
Okay. So far, even the numbers don't add up for you.
For me, I think we should be higher.
Inflation should be higher?
Yeah.
You can understand why they'll be reluctant to.
I mean, we at a point we need to be very honest to ourselves. We cannot question what statistical service does. But I can tell you that it is better for us to, face the brutal relatives on the ground than to try. I know they have their basket, I know they have whatever, but they should understand also that with such happenings, some of the weights need to change. You know, the US had to change some of the weights in recent times just to reflect what is happening. Why are we so stagnant in thinking?
Interesting.
Does it make sense? Bank of Ghana should do the needful. The MPOC should do the needful. And let's see how it works. Let's see how the market reacts to this. Let's bring back confidence. That is what the market needs.
I'm saying this because if you sit close to, I host a couple of shows. One of them is Alaji and Alaji. When you sit close to an MPP or somebody who is coming from the MPP, first thing they say about the economy is go and check the inflation rate from 2016. Go and check the interest rate from 2016. We have reduced interest rate. Politically,
I'll explain that to you. That is price distortion.
But to them, politically, that will feel like...
you see, we cannot run this economy on political platforms. When you get the opportunity to sit on a radio station and you say, oh, we have reduced, what is the effect of the reduction? Look, Bank of Ghana up to today is not able to publish M2 plus variables on their website. I've written letters to them. They are unable to respond.
Because it won't look good.
It doesn't look good. If you tell me we have a strong financial sector and your figures don't look good in terms of M2 plus,
and coming to that, because I read the story, I was like, but how is this possible? Some banks are being downgraded. EcoBank is one of the banks that are in the investment market a lot. You realize, because if you go to see them, there's throwing cocoa bills and other things that use, which means that they are really into government sovereign. Because when you read Moody's and Fitch, it looks like they are talking about their relation with government bonds.
Yeah.
Explain to us what Moody's and Fitch are actually, what their worry is, what their concern is from reading what they've published.
Well, if what happens basically is there are banks that are selected to support government in terms of its operations, in raising money, the bonds and all that. So these are the so-called specialist institutions
and the bond specialists.
Yeah, the bond specialists. Yes,
I've heard that.
And those are the ones who normally support government in actually raising this, and they go on the primary market, like I have said earlier, to actually bid for the bonds at a certain rate. Then they would come and sell it to us on the secondary market. Yes. So when the country and its bonds have been downgraded, it affects you, those who were supporting it on the primary market, because it all adds up to the grading. So automatically, if the parents have been downgraded. Certainly, you, the offspring, would also be downgraded. It's just automatic. Now, what it means is that if the bonds are not performing, and you have to hold up for government by keeping those bonds, because government will only give you back your money when the maturity arrives.
Okay.
That is the reason why government will not do this on the secondary market directly, but will do it at the primary market. Now, if we are liquidating and taking back our money, it gives you a higher exposure in terms of risk or to risk. What happens is that your liquidity becomes a bit suspect.
Okay.
Because monies that you would have used for operations, your normal banking operations, now you would have to hold up those monies because of the bonds. Because if I have $5 million in the Eurobond, for instance, right? And as an individual, I got that from one of these banks that have been downgraded. So I go to the bank and I said, I want to liquidate my $5 million. I will take $5 million of your money, savings or deposit you have taken,
Okay.
in terms of your foreign exchange. I will take it. So it creates liquidity issues to you. You have already given that money to BOG or to Ghana. And you cannot go and take it. You cannot go and liquidate
Until maturity.
until maturity.
Okay.
But I have. And so you will hold the fort. And that means you will have liquidity issues. So if over $200 million have been liquidated, then you should ask yourself, how are these banks surviving? And that is all what Moody and Fitch are saying. And to downgrade a bank to CAA1 means you are in the junk speculative area. You can go anytime. With any run on any of these banks will collapse. So it makes sense for government to collapse those banks and nationalize it like it did.
These banks.
Yes,
We could talk about EcoBank.
of course.
But that will be because in the case of the banks that were also collapsed, they always said that it's government itself that was the problem.
We are in the same situation. That's what I'm saying.
Now this
So
point
by
they could have
that
done the same
same
thing.
principle, collapse these banks, collapse GCB, nationalize it. It's already a nationalized bank.
Wow.
So you see the absurdity of some decisions we take.
So our banks, which has been, so those of them, because I was looking at the list. EcoBank is there. I think GCB is also there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a few other banks that are there. GT Bank as a specialist, bond market specialist.
Yeah.
So those banks now that are holding government bonds won't be under pressure to
Yes,
liquidate.
they are. The only thing saving all of them is that there is no run on them. But if there should be a run on any of these banks, none will survive because they are not liquid.
That's essentially what. But Moody's and Fitch say if there's a sovereign default, that's when they will not be liquid. But you're saying they're already not liquid.
Oh, you wait for the sovereign default to happen? No. You can't work that way when it comes to financial matters. You look at the future. What is your exposure from now? You are not able to attract more in terms of savings. You are also tied by law to keep a certain fraction of deposit you take, and keep the other for the operations, in terms of people who come back for their monies or portions of their monies. So I'm not saying those banks have collapsed. I'm saying if there should be any run on them,
You struggle.
they will not struggle, they will collapse.
Oh. Go down completely.
Oh yes.
Well, there are those who say, and I think this is even sent by one of our viewers from the UK, Wudedujo says, the more we import, the more the cedi depreciates. Everybody just goes back and say, we import too much. That's how we are struggling. We've been struggling for long because of importation. If we don't reverse that, there will be no way. How does that sound to you?
Who doesn't import? In this world, who doesn't import? Everybody imports. It is not really about the importation. What you do with the importation. We import consumables. The volumes of gold that leaves this shore is our export, and equally somebody's import. But what they do with the gold, and then we have to go back and buy it at a higher price, is what matters. So if you are importing, it's not necessarily bad. It is what you do with the import. If you are importing biscuits, it is consumption. You will not do anything to the biscuits that will give you more in terms of revenue. You are just going to consume it. So sometimes we should just not say, oh, we should stop the import. When you are importing, for instance, aluminium, raw aluminium, right? Certainly you will not consume the raw aluminium. You would have to turn it into something, maybe a frame or something and all that. It employs people. It can be exported into this West Africa, other West African countries. It can be demanded anywhere on this world, in this world. So we should look at the fraction, and that is the shift we need, so that we reduce the imports on consumption, direct consumable goods, and increase the imports on raw materials that will necessitate production, employ machinery, employ human resource, and then we'll have goods available for export that will bring in foreign currency.
Because I think the last time I was having a conversation with you, you do some work with some industry people.
Yes.
You were saying that even those of them who import raw materials for processing, it looks like nobody has planned to make it easier and cheaper for them.
Yes.
Instead,
Yes.
our plan is to they are importing at the same cost or sometimes higher.
Just imagine Irani brothers, Olam, Takrady flour mills, and all those guys in the flour production. Ask yourself, how much of wheat do they need a month?
And you are saying the cost of wheat on the international market is going up.
It's skyrocketing.
No intervention from...
So as a government, you don't put money in planting for food. You substitute the wheat importation with production here. That is what you do.
You make a conscious effort to increase wheat production in Ghana.
Exactly. And that's the difference between a political economist on a political platform and an economist that is actually looking at the markets and finding solution to challenges.
Well, I think, okay, so it's 10:56 now. I promise that this will be 1 hour. Of course, you have some other engagements. I had to pull you out of some engagements anyway. Thank you for coming anyway. But I think the question now is the question that I sent to you that we advertised. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel?
I will answer it this way. Recovery is not in sight.
Recovery is not in sight.
Yeah.
So which means that we are not looking at short term.
No.
Short term recovery is impossible.
No.
What do we do?
Well, at this point, I think I have said what we needed to do. But the issue is whether they will do it. They will do what is needful to ensure that we shorten the recovery process.
Okay. I just want to go back briefly to the issues, the point you made about the vessels.
Yeah.
In that particular instance, what can government do? Because you're saying the trade ministry can do something about it.
Of course.
You're saying that there are vessels that are choosing destinations that they think makes economic sense.
Exactly.
Are you saying that moving here to Ghana, there are much more competitive places that they can go to?
There are costs. Any vessel coming over has costs.
It's more expensive to come here?
Yes. So do something about it.
Is it the way we are charging them?
Yes, what we are charging the vessels. How we are even managing the vessels to dock, the time spanned and all that. All these things matters. And that is why you have a trade ministry that needs to sit and start looking at what can we do to facilitate trade, make it more easier. But we see nothing.
You just basically just shut down two people. Dr. Baumia and Mr. Alanche are the leading candidates of the MPP in the upcoming primaries.
Well, that tells you the future.
They want to manage the economy better.
Well, that tells you their future.
What's more matter? Professor Adai says the economy has not, he's refused that it's collapsed. He says we are in difficult times. How does that sound to you?
Well, I'll just explain what a collapsed economy is. If there are no jobs, if you have some form of recession, and not recession with GDP or anything, but when the business activity is overly extended, and people cannot do anything any longer. You see businesses not taking up new adventures. Businesses are just sitting down waiting and all that. That is a sign of recession. I've mentioned unemployment. I've mentioned extended businesses, overextended businesses, and then a government overly indebted. Means that you have a collapsed economy.